Let's build a curriculum. Hi, I'm Colleen. Today, we're gonna build a curriculum. And by today, I mean, of course, I already did this last night, but I'm gonna tell you about it today. And that's been a thing going around, like make yourself a curriculum. And I really like that as a librarian who really wants all of you to be lifelong readers and lifelong learners and to never stop educating yourself and to build your own sort of curriculum that you want to learn about. That's a really fun thing to do. And so I decided to hop on that trend and I thought I'd make a video about it. If you are interested in this and this is something that you like hearing about, please tell me in the comments because then I will do follow-up videos. But if everyone's kind of like no comments, doesn't say anything, then I probably won't do a follow-up video since this is a little different than what I usually do on this channel. So I gave myself some parameters. A lot of the videos I've been watching, which are cool and awesome, but they're also, everyone I've watched is like in their 20s. And I'm not in my 20s. I am in my 40s. I have 4 kids. I have a husband. I have a author career. And so my 5 to 9 doesn't look like it did when I was 27 years old. I love, this is an aside, watching those 28-year-olds with their quiet 5 to 9, because my 5 to 8, I would say 8 to 9 is not bad. My 5 to 8 is literally like chaos set on fire. So because of that, I am going to create my curriculum a little differently, most likely. A lot of the ones I've been seeing are like, this is my quarterly curriculum. This is my month curriculum, what I want to learn in a month. I'm not doing that. This is my year. And so not all these things are going to take a year. Some of these things are going to only take a couple months, but some of them are going to take a full year. One of them in particular will take a full year. But I kind of wanted to do it like that just because of where I am in my life. Like if I told you, like, if I gave you like a month-long curriculum, it would be kind of boring because it would be like read one book. It's not going to have a lot. Another fun thing I did is I did give myself 5 subjects which I had to fill. Because if you said to me, build yourself a curriculum, I would build myself a history curriculum and I wouldn't put anything else in it. It would just be like, learn about this time period and this time period and this time period. And I don't think that's very fun for anyone. Without further ado, let's go over my curriculum. And let's start with history because we know who I am. I will be studying the medieval period, which is partially also research I do need to be doing for some novel writing I have on the horizon. But I did think that that would be a good thing to start with for history because I need to be researching this stuff anyways. It'll be part of my curriculum. I can carve out time every week. Beyond the medieval period, honestly, I also have this as history/religion because I did go to religious schools my entire life. And so it feels weird for me to make a curriculum without a religion class, but I don't really want to study religion in the way I used to. So what I'm going to do is I want to learn about the medieval period, but then within that, I want to learn about the life in what life was like in an abbey in the medieval period, in particular, not a monastery, so not monks, nuns. I want to learn about what life was like and what it looked like for those women who lived in there at that time period, which sounds cool. So here's my reading list. I have A World Lit Only by Fire by William Manchester, which has been on my TBR for a while. I really want to read it. So now I'm motivated. I want this to be my first read. My second one, I have Medieval Lives, 8 Charismatic Men and Women of the Middle Ages by Norman F. Cantor. If you watch this channel, you know this is on my September TBR and that I told myself I was going to read it. I'm going to be honest, this book is really freaking boring. So what I think I want to do is I think I want to read this book first and then maybe read a couple chapters of this because I read the first one. Each chapter is a different mini biography, but it's written very oddly. So I read Helena Augusta. I didn't like it. I just started Augustine of Hippo, which I thought I might like more because I went to an Augustinian university. Do not care for it. So when I'm looking at this, Hildegard of Bingen is the one I want to read, which is chapter 5, and Eleanor of Aquitaine, which is chapter 6. So I think I might just read those 2 chapters and then call it with this book. And then lastly, I have this book, which I literally have owned for over a decade. Mysteries of the Middle Ages and the Beginning of the Modern World by Thomas Cahill. I read, this is part of a 5-book series, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong on the number. But, oh, let's see. They've got it all here. Well, this just says there are going to be 7. So there were 5 when this one came out. So the first book is How the Irish Saved Civilization. I read that one. The second one is The Gifts of the Jews. I did not read that one. The third was The Desire of the Everlasting Hills, which is the world around the time of Jesus, like before and after. I didn't read that one. Sailing the Wide and Dark Sea, Why the Greeks Matter. I did read that one. And then this is Mysteries of the Middle Ages. And I should look and see what the other ones are. Let's do a quick Google. There's not a seventh book. There's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the last one is called Heretics and Heroes, Ego in the Renaissance and the Reformation, which actually sounds like a really good book too. Those are my 3 books on my reading list. But then also I need to add some things to my list. I want to find some like old school History Channel documentaries about not only the medieval period, but maybe about life in abbeys. I will probably look for some like journal article type stuff about life within an abbey, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of full length nonfiction books. I might be able to find some at the library, but that's going to be part of it, is like finding what to read next, which I'm very excited about. My assessment, I made myself goals and assessments for each of these. So my assessment is going to be that I want to write a 3-page paper on a figure of my choosing with a thesis statement after I've read those 3 books. I'm going to make myself write a paper. Also, if you can see, I gave myself 3 pages, which is quite short, which depending on what you are studying, have studied, that might feel long, but to me, that feels like a very, and also, I mean, I am an author, like I feel like I can write 3 pages pretty easily. This isn't going to be something I'm going to have to spend 2 weeks on. I'm probably going to spend a weekend on it, writing a paper, and then I can't grade it myself. I could maybe send it to my friend who's a professor, but she teaches ancient Greek and Latin, so this isn't her forte. And then my goals, for this one, I can't actually tell you, because my goal is very much wrapped up in a book I'm gonna write. So it has to do with that book I'm gonna write. Okay, so there's history. So first period is history, second period is religion. We're learning about abbeys. Third period, let's go to foreign language. For my foreign language, I will be studying French. I already learned French when I was younger. I loved French. It was very fun. And I took it for 7 years, I think. And I, in 2004, could get around Paris just fine with my French, but I wouldn't be able to now. Not that I have a trip planned to Paris, but wouldn't that be lovely? I got this book at the used book sale in my town. I want to do 1 to 2 hours of French a week, which I know is a big ask of myself. But I think that if I split that into 30-minute increments, that I could do it. I'll probably have some weeks where I do 1 hour and some weeks where I do 2 hours and some weeks where I do an hour and a half, But I think that that would be a great place for me to start. This is literally a textbook with a workbook, with activities, with homework. It's like a school book. So there we go. My assessments for this are gonna be the assessments that are in here. It also comes with a CD, which I don't even know if I'm going to be able to use that because I don't have a CD player on my computer, but or in my car. My goal is just that I want to be able to understand. So in this year, I want to be able to understand the level of French that I understood at the end of 7th grade, which was my first year taking French. So I just want a year 1 understanding of French, and then we'll see if next year I want to get a different book or if I want to use this book again or whatever. All right, so third period's over. Let's go to science. I had a really fun time coming up with my science and math curriculum because I was not really a science girly. I really liked biology, and then I really, really disliked chemistry. And I did not like physics, but I had an amazing physics teacher. She was so kind to me because when I was taking physics, I was going through a really hard time, and she was wonderful to me. I hope she's doing great, and I hope she has an extremely high-paid teaching job. She doesn't teach at the school I went to anymore, but she was phenomenal. So when I was thinking about what I wanted my science class to be, I was like, well, it's really obvious. And my science class is, I want to grow over 30 pumpkins next fall. Let me give you some backstory. I have a backyard garden. I've had it since we moved in, the first summer, so that would have been summer 2018. And I had, at our old place, we lived in like a condo in the city, I had a little tiny rooftop garden. I had one summer, 2020. Granted, 2020 is a weird year because you could basically tinker in your garden all day long. I grew 30 pumpkins and it was amazing. And I didn't do anything. I just put down bags of soil in a raised bed and grew 30 pumpkins. And it was crazy. And I've never been able to do it again. So I've had some years where I've had like 5 to 10 pumpkins, but this year I planted 100 pumpkin seeds. I got zero. Now, the one place that I did plant stuff that really took off and did well, I planted a zucchini patch there instead of a pumpkin patch. And I do think if I had planted pumpkins there, the pumpkins would have done really well. But the zucchini wouldn't have done well anywhere else. So I'm like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how to grow that many pumpkins. I want pumpkins all over my front yard. Here's the thing also, I really like gardening, but right now it's like stressful to process too much food. So we have so many thousands of blackberries that they're just falling off the bush now. No one in my house wants to eat blackberries anymore. I already made a blackberry pie and her blackberries were a little too seedy for a blackberry pie. I don't really like blackberries plain that much. I was gonna make syrup, but it's just like, it's a lot. I like growing something that is supposed to be a decorative gourd on my front porch and that I can give to my mom for a decorative gourd on her front porch. So I'm gonna do it. Here's the plan. These are all the gardening books I own, which isn't a lot, but they each have a pumpkin section. I'm gonna read the pumpkin section in all of these, okay? This book also is hilarious because I always say, if we ever have like a true apocalypse, this is gonna be the most important thing that I'll own because it literally tells you how to survive anywhere. But it's got a chapter on pumpkins. I'm gonna read all these. Then I'm going to spend from now, September, until mid-May when I plant the pumpkin seeds, preparing my soil. So it will be perfect soil for pumpkins. I am going to call the gardening experts there's a woman who sits at our farmer's market and she hands out cards. Like if you have gardening questions, ask these people. They're part of our state university system. I'm gonna call them and ask them what I should do. I'm gonna make this perfect. I'm also gonna pick a variety of pumpkins because I planted, of the 100 seeds I planted, about 70 were the same variety because those were just like the seed packets I could find. And I was starting to think that maybe that was a bad idea and I should have done a little bit more seed diversity. That's just on me. I'm also going to really think about where I'm planting them because the year that I did so well, I don't have a garden box there anymore. I like took that box out and planted a cherry tree there. And so I planted them last year in this place where they didn't do well, but then I put a garden box right next to the cherry tree and planted them there, but they didn't do well. And so I need to figure out where I need to put this garden box so that the pumpkins will grow because that is what is important. The pumpkins need to grow. What's my assessment? Whether or not I can grow 30 pumpkins. So obviously this assessment you're not gonna know the answer to until next fall. I mean, and honestly, maybe even not until October because you get pumpkins in August and September, but you really get them in October. My goals are pumpkins everywhere. Pretty easy one. All right, it's 5th period, so it's lunch. I'm gonna go to lunch. And then I'm gonna come back to 6th period and it's gonna be time for English Lit. I went a weird way with English Lit because obviously I'm an author who has a BookTube channel. So I could really just say like, read a bunch of books or write those books, like, you know, but that's like normal stuff that I do. So I wanted to add something in particular. I wanna read at least 3 children's classics out loud to my family. But here are the parameters. Every Sunday for 30 minutes, I'm gonna sit in this room, which is our cozy living room. When it's cold out, I'll put a fire on. And I'm going to read out loud for 30 minutes. Everyone is welcome. No one is forced to come. So most likely, only my one kid who's obsessed with me will be there, but the other ones might come sometimes. And I wanna just have it be like, this is just what's going on. Mom's reading out loud in the living room. If you wanna come listen, you can. Honestly, they all are supposed to read 20 minutes before bed, but you can be read to, that's part of it. So it will count towards your 20 minutes. And yeah, here are the books that I have. Redwall, which I do own and want to start with this one. So this will be the first one we read. And then I made a list of other ones I thought would be interesting. The Wind in the Willows, Pippi Longstocking, The Little Prince, Little House in the Big Woods, which I know is probably quite problematic, but I did love that book when I was a kid and I am really curious to reread it now to see how it doesn't hold up, I assume, but if there's still parts of it that do. And lastly, The All of a Kind of Family, which I also read and loved when I was a kid. There isn't going to be an assessment for this one because I can't really assess reading children's classics out loud to my children. I'm not going to test them on it. That would make them not like this, and I'm not going to test myself on it. But my goals are just to foster a community of reading in my home, which we do have, but I want to just, my kids are getting older. I don't have many more years of this being like a thing I can do. And so I want to just do it. And honestly, my 7th grader is never going to come in. He's not going to be interested. My 4th grader, maybe. We'll see. If I put out treats, she'll probably come. And now it's time for 7th period, which in my high school we had 8 periods, but I had a free oh no, I would have had dance instead because I didn't take gym. I took dance, which I'm not going to take a dance class, sadly. But my girls are. So last period, we have math. Math is knitting. Did you think I was going to say calculus? Because I hated math in high school, and I took the required 2 semesters of math in college, and one of those was a computer class, which counted as math, and the other one was a statistics class, which I did not like. So, but knitting is math because knitting is counting, and it's a pattern, so it's math, so it counts. I know how to knit. I used to knit all the time. I've fallen off of knitting, and I'm not really sure why. I did knit a ton during the pandemic, so that might be why, but I want to get back into knitting. The first thing I'm going to do is I have all this really pretty green yarn that I actually bought a year ago when I wanted to get back into knitting and then never did anything with it. And one of my daughters is obsessed with the color green, specifically this shade. So I'm going to make her a very big scarf because I got a lot of it. I have 5 kinds of this, so I can make her a huge, thick scarf. I'm going to do that for my one daughter. Then I'm sure my other daughters are also going to want scarves. I have a lot of random yarn around my house. I can make them scarves. But there's this awesome blanket I have. I don't have it anymore. I have the pattern still. I think it's in this room right here because I think I put most of my crafting stuff in there. I didn't find it before the video, but it's this beautiful blanket that takes a long time to make because when I was knitting a ton, each square took me 5 hours and it has 12 squares. So I used to do it a lot when my husband and I were watching TV, which will probably be what I'll do. But I had made this gorgeous blanket in 2012 because I made it when we were married, but we didn't have children. And I loved it. And it was so beautiful. I picked out the perfect colors and it was really warm. It wasn't that cozy because it was like 100% wool, I think. So it was pretty itchy, but it was so warm. It doesn't exist anymore. And I'll tell you why. So when my husband was a young new dad, our oldest was a baby and I was not home. And our oldest was sitting on our couch on top of this blanket and his diaper exploded like the worst way you could imagine. And my husband panicked and put that blanket in the washing machine and then put it in the dryer. And so it was destroyed. I mean, it was like a small felted, completely uneven. It wasn't even still like a rectangle, which is fine. I understand. I'm not mad at him about it. I mean, it was a lot of work, but he didn't know what to do. He didn't understand that you can't like machine wash a hand knit wool blanket, which is fine. But I've always really wanted to have that blanket again. And so that is my math goal for this year. I need to do a couple warm-ups because it is a little bit of a more difficult pattern. Like I remember it being like kind of hard for me when I was doing it, when I was knitting a lot. And so I'm going to first do some scarves. Probably won't do hats for my kids this year because I used to always knit them a little fall hat. But now that they're older, they don't really like wear a fall hat. Like that's like more of a toddler's thing to wear like a little lightweight knit. So I'll do some scarves and then I'll start the blanket. And that's my math assessment. And my goal is just to feel more comfortable knitting again. That is my curriculum for you. I'm really excited. I think it'll be a good way for me to kind of like focus my work in the next year of like my hobby time. I have a really hard time taking time for my hobbies because a lot of times when I'm like wanting to do a hobby, I write instead, or I outline instead, or I don't even do it, but I open my document on my computer and then I end up just like watching stuff on YouTube, like old TV shows I've already seen. And I want to kind of like take back my hobby time and actually use it for hobbies. So knitting, gardening, reading, obviously, researching, learning French, and learning about medieval nuns, which is going to be really cool, in my opinion. Please tell me if you enjoyed this and if you want to see more about this, because I will totally check in with you guys every once in a while, and that will probably make me stay on track way more than me doing it by myself, because obviously things happen. I'm going to get a ton of editing work any day now, and so it would probably be pretty nice for me to have some, motivation in the way of I have to make a video in 1 week about where I am, and I'm not doing great. I'm also going to do fun things like buy myself a notebook for some of these. Obviously, I'm not going to need a notebook for English Lit, but I will need one for history, and I will need one for French, and I will need one for science, and I won't need one for math. So I'll just need a couple. I'd probably just buy a 3-subject notebook and be done. That'll work. And then it won't take that much space. And that's everything I have for you on my curriculum. Have you heard about this before? I think in the description, I'm going to pop a few of the videos I watched so you guys can watch some other curriculums, because they were cool. I saw a lot of people doing really fun stuff. They were like, I want to be better at marketing. I'm like, well, that's one I should put in there, but I don't want to study marketing right now. Maybe if this is successful, next year I'll study marketing and maybe interior design. It'll be so much fun. If you have a curriculum that you like work through for yourself, please tell me in the comments about it, because I do find this super interesting. And obviously, because I am a librarian, even though I'm not currently working as one, I always love hearing about people who are lifelong learners. So that's all I have for you today, and I'll see you soon.